Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to News Talk with yours truly, Chris Ano, coming to you as usual from the great state of Texas, Houston, Texas, precisely. I am glad we are back for a few days. ABS has been off the air owing to some technical issues here in the studio, but I am excited to announce for those of you who kept on sending in messages from Africa, precisely from the Federal Republic of Amazonia. We are back as usual and looking good, looking good. I want to believe. Good evening to all of you tuning in from across the globe, Africa, Europe, the USA, Canada, South America, Asia, the far and the near east, wherever you happen to find yourself. It's always a pleasure to be with you, to bring you information on what is happening on the struggle for the independence of Amazonia. Thank you for tuning in. I am very excited, so much to bring to you tonight. But please, as usual, I plead on you to go ahead and hit your share button. For those of you joining by way of Facebook, hit your share button. Let the platform be populated as soon as possible. Hit your share button. Unfortunately, Facebook doesn't send out notifications for us. I do not understand why. We have fought it and fought it and fought it to no avail. In fact, I realize that we watch more on YouTube nowadays than on the Facebook. But please go ahead and as you join, hit your share button. Let us get the platform quickly populated. And if you are watching by way of YouTube, do the same, and do not forget to hit the subscribe button if you are watching by way of YouTube. Thank you for doing so. I will be right back in the next second. Don't touch the dial. Thanks once more for staying put in there, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I'm going to be bringing you two main issues for discussion here. We'll be talking about the recent revelations by Albert Dzongang, who was one of La République du Cameroon's officials charged with managing and proclaiming the results of the 1992 presidential elections, in which not just in the southern Cameroons and Amazonia, but every Cameroonian, because we were still a one and divided country then. But then the elections were rigged, and Albert Dzongang, who was in the middle of it, is now making the revelations as to exactly what happened and who were the actors. That is an exclusive story that I bring to you today. But besides that, we also have not a press statement, but a document signed between the British government in 1961 and La République du Cameroon, making the rounds in the social media by La République du Cameroon's activists and surrogates. Now, they want Amazonians to believe the idea that a treaty of union has never existed between La République du Cameroon and Amazonia is a farce, and they are circulating that document as a treaty of union indeed. As a treaty of union indeed. I will be coming to you with an eye-opener, but I would like to start from Emmanuel in Salai. I would like to start from Emmanuel in Salai, ladies and gentlemen. Stay put.
And yeah, so that's where we are from. So as someone who is from the northwest region of Cameroon, do you understand the plight of the English-speaking people of Cameroon who have been trying to in a process of termination for some years now? Do you understand their plight?
I understand the political intricacies as much as I can, being first and foremost a lawyer and legal expert and not necessarily a politician. And I understand what the Anglophones or the persons in the English regions want and desire. So yes, it's something that has a patriotic Cameroonian, as a concerned Cameroonian. I keep in touch with the news that happens here, politically, socially, and economically, so I try to understand it. So what people, the killings that were happening.
Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you remember this young man called Emmanuel in Salah. He says he is a barrister expert in the USA and in La République du Cameroun. Of course, anybody who is a professional in his area can call himself an expert, but then it is left for others to judge from what you do, whether you are indeed an expert. The fact that you go to school and study law doesn't make you an expert. It is your ability to rightly divide the law that makes you an expert in law or any field you seek to feature in. But that is not what I am talking about here. That's not what I want to talk about here. You guys remember a week or so ago, Emmanuel in Salah conducted a press conference in Yaoundé parading what he described as victims of Nkambe 11 February explosion. He accordingly sued some what he calls separated leaders at the ICC, International Criminal Court. And that press conference in Yaoundé was meant to educate people about what he was doing with the ICC lawsuit. You can find now he brought in these guys, he brought in these people you call the victims. Now these were the people that Emmanuel in Salah referred to as the victims of Nkambe 11 February explosion. And he had accordingly filed a lawsuit at the ICC against Amazonian leaders for orchestrating the Nkambe explosion. Well, it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, it turns out that the same victims that Emmanuel in Salah paraded in Yaoundé turned to be his own victims. They are now berating him for taking them for a PRO stunt, a PRO, public relations stunt in Yaoundé. The victims, they have said, Emmanuel in Salah took them to Yaoundé and gave them chicken change, to take back to Nkambe. In other words, he probably just paid their transportation, carried them to Yaoundé, paraded them at this press conference as victims of the Nkambe explosion, and let them go back. But they didn't. They didn't go back silently. In fact, the newspapers in La République du Cameroun, is it the New Horizon or the Horizon, actually published the story of how the victim that Emmanuel in Salah paraded at his press conference in Yaoundé went out berating him and cursing him for using them to project himself as this powerful lawyer who wants to fight for them. So it is quite interesting now, turning to a case of dog eat dog. Exactly what it is. The case of dog eat dog. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thought to bring that development to you. We're also learning that in Kumbo, the military of La République du Cameroun went out yesterday, arrested and tortured 2 chiefs with their wives. And as I come to you today, Their whereabouts remain unknown. We hope that the so-called authorities in La République du Cameroon will get after their soldiers to release those chiefs. Just imagine if those chiefs were picked up, abducted by Ambazonia restoration fighters. All hell will be let loose, and Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and all those groups, rights groups, they will be everywhere, yelling at the top of their voices, condemning the arrest of traditional leaders. I hope that so-called authorities in La République du Cameroon will make sure those chiefs come and their wives come back home in one piece. In one piece. We are looking out for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I will take 1 minute out, and when I come back, I take you to my main story of the day. Albert Dzongang and his confession. Please stay tuned. I'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, many of you out there know who Albert Dzongang is. He was one of those who was responsible for managing the results of the 1992 presidential elections, a much contended 1992 presidential elections conducted by La République du Cameroon. Of course, by then, who was T1 and divisible. And Albert Dzongang, the man you find there being interviewed, was one of the key persons. In fact, he says he was the key person managing the outcome of the elections. Now, we all know, there is no doubt that every Cameroonian, not just Ambazonian, but every Cameroonian was aware that Chairman Frundi and the SDF won that election, but it was stolen. Now we have the confession from Albert Dzongang. In the unfolding narrative of Cameroon's highly contentious 1992 presidential election, the truth regarding the rightful winner is at last emerging from the shadows. No doubts linger regarding John Frundi and the SDF's triumph in that electoral battle. Yet, the haze has perpetually surrounded the unfolding events, the pivotal actors at play, and the intricate maneuvers that snatch victory from Chairman Frundi's grasp and bestow it upon Paul Biya. In a recent media expose, Albert Dzongang, a central figure in the political manipulation that took place, finally confirmed what many suspected. John Frundi indeed clinched victory in the election. However, Albert Dzongang astutely points out that Frundi's failure to navigate the intricate webs of power and engage with the influential figures who held the keys to political ascendancy ultimately cost him the throne. Dzongang admits his own instrumental role in orchestrating the scheme and unveils the significant sway he held in shaping the outcome of the 1992 elections. During the interview, Dzongang illuminates a pivotal moment when Frundi's triumph became irrefutable. Swiftly convening with his cohorts, including Charles Ndongo, he said, they deliberated on whether or not to concede Frundi's rightful victory. Despite dispatching envoys to employ cooperation from Frundi's camp, the leader's unwavering resolve to claim his win unaided proved insurmountable. Frundi seemed entrenched in the belief that electoral success alone would usher him into power, a fatal misjudgment, as Dzongang reveals. The quandary deepened as it became evident that Paul Biya had suffered defeat. Among the key figures involved in manipulating the election results were, according to Albert Dzongang, Zang Forchive, Akame Mfumu, Mecca, Amadou Ali, and Achidi Achu. Within Dzongang's inner circle resided Augustine Concho Komeni and Henry Bandolo, they were entrusted with communication responsibilities for the election. They acknowledged the magnitude of Frundi's victory, spanning beyond the western regions of Cameroon to encompass Cameroon entirely, presenting a formidable challenge. Faced with the pivotal question of whether to allow Frundi to the helm of the nation, the unanimous answer reverberated, according to Dzongang, no. In a statement tinged with discriminatory undertones against John Frundi's Anglophone background, preference swayed towards the trio of Buba Bello Maigare, Adamu Damjoya, and Jan Jack Ekindi. They were deemed more palatable solely by virtue of their origins as Francophones or coming from east of the Mongol. The sinister machinations preceding this decision underscore the depths of manipulation and the fervent desire to bar an Anglophone from the helm of power. Dzongang divulges that they approached Buba Bello, Ndamjoya, and Ikindi, apprising them of Frundi's victory, but expressing reservations about ceding power to Frundi. The trio response favored maintaining the status quo by throwing support behind Paul Biya, citing fears of turmoil if John Frundi should assume power. When queried on his timing for disclosing these revelations, Albert Dzongang emphasized the gravity of the moment in history. It was widely acknowledged that Paul Biya and the CPDM had indeed lost the 1992 election, drawing parallels with the struggle for Ambazonia's independence today. Dzongang's revelations, ladies and gentlemen, underscore the pivotal role John Frundi's Anglophone identity played in thwarting his rise to power. The specter of a radical Anglophone presidency stoked fears among the Francophone majority, paving the path for the subversion of democratic ideals. Albert Dzongang's revelations not only illuminate the murky undercurrents of political maneuvering and discrimination that tainted the 1992 presidential election, but also underscores the enduring challenges of ethnicity and power dynamics within Cameroon's political arena. In the larger context of the struggle for Ambazonia's independence, John Frundi's victory in the election stands as a testament to his leadership prowess. However, the specter of his Anglophone identity loomed large, serving as a singular barrier to his ascent. To those advocating for federalism and urging a ceasefire in pursuit of peace and a power-sharing agreement within a united Cameroon, a stark warning resounds the day a southern Cameroonian assumes the presidency in Yaoundé. His tenure may meet a premature end, terminated by assassination. Francophones staunchly oppose the notion of an Anglophone leading the nation. They hate us. That's a fact. One more thing. Dzongang's silence on any French government involvement in the whole scheme of 1992 elections speaks volumes. The absence of France in their clandestine dealings suggests that our paramount concern may not lie with them after all. It is the Francophone elite who is our true adversary. They are not our brethren. They are our adversaries. Even the trio, ladies and gentlemen, of Buba Belon, Damjoya, and Zang Ekindi demonstrated no regard for righteousness when confronted with Frundi's rightful victory. They prefer it to go back to Biya. Their allegiance swiftly turned back to Paul Biya, shunning the path of justice. Such revelations cast doubt on the sincerity of the current crop of Francophone political leaders. I'm talking about people like the Kamtos, the Ninchus, and so on, and others who advocate for dialogue and a return to federalism. How can we trust their promises when faced with the stark reality that the Francophone elite refuse to acknowledge the legitimacy of John Frundi's victory? If Canto and his Francophone elite genuinely empathized with the plight of the Ambazonians and want us to believe them, they would stand in solidarity with us, advocating for a United Nations supervised referendum that empowers our people to determine their destiny, rather than dangling with the notion of a return to federation. In this tumultuous landscape, the call for a United Nations supervised referendum emerges as the beacon of true democracy, offering our people the autonomy to chart their own course. Anything less risks perpetuating the circle of oppression and disenfranchisement. And that is my talking point, ladies and gentlemen. I am being joined at this moment by a number of guests here. I am being joined by Kennedy Ejacha, who happens to be a proponent to what Anglophones in the La République du Cameroon would like to call federalism. Comrade, it's great to have you back here again, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairman Chris. It's a pleasure to be on this platform, and I think with civility, we would express our opinions, and it's very important because that's what distinguishes us from those that we are considering as the problem to the Cameroonian crisis.
All right. Let me take you a little bit to to the background of this, the essence of this story here. Quite a number of you, led by Dr. Munzo, are out there saying, well, there is no way we can go back to a federation. We just have to stay with a federal. I mean, there is no way we can go back to independence. We can go back, taking back our independence. Let's just stay with Cameroon in a federation. And there are some who are also suggesting in your circles that, we can go back and have power rotation where you have a president coming from La Republique du Cameroon for 4 or for 5 years, and then the next time the president comes from Ambazonia for 4 or for 5 years, you rotate it so that Ambazonians do not feel monopolized or marginalized. Now, when you look at what Albert Dzongang is telling us, do you still, as a federalist, think that Southern Cameroonians in your terminology, or Ambazonians in my terminology, have a chance of ever leading that country? And does it surprise you? Does it surprise you that in the narrative, in Albert Dzongang's narrative, there is no mention of the French, because we're always thinking that the French wanted Paul Biya to be there. But we do not hear the mention of the French. We do not see their hand in there. It is all the French elite, Francophone elite. So tell me, are you still convinced that we can live as one and indivisible La République du Cameroon?
Yes, I mean, there is a statement that you coined that I think, I give you credit to that statement. We have a one Cameroon that is severely divided. So the division in Cameroon, when you look at it now, it's not just a division that's along colonially inherited linguistic boundaries, that's French and English. You would see even within that nation of Cameroon, the divide is so extended that you have people from the north, people from the south, people from the west, people from the Bassin land, the littoral. So it's completely chaotic. But there is one thing that I am very pleased about the revelations from Dzongang Albert. It reveals that we as Cameroonians, in our struggle, we are all one. But we are dealing against an oligarchy. The oligarchy, it's such that it has recruited people from all the 4 corners of Cameroon. So, I mean, without saying it, Dzongang has clearly laid out a case for federalists by stating that Francophones voted Frundi. The majority of the Francophones, because Frundi could not win that election without the vote of the Francophones. So that's the good thing about it. That is what keeps us pumped up. That is what gives us the confidence that if we continue this struggle and achieve what we want to achieve for our people, which is self-determination, I mean, the Anglophone way of doing things is appealing across the board. So that's something positive. I mean, probably I would say that
I don't understand how you can feel very comfortable saying, oh, Francophones can vote Anglophones, but the same Francophones, the elite that still control the power, took it away. They are still there. Camto travels to the diaspora, and the Ambazonians are fighting. Camto cannot even come into the midst of Ambazonians and address Ambazonians. It is the same elite. They are still there. And again, the fact that the French hand is not seen, I mean, France, the country of France, their hand is not seen, tells you there is a stronghold in that country, and that stronghold is the Francophone elite. And there is no way, thinking that you are Southern Cameroonian, Ambazonian, that you can bypass them and have any role to play in that country from the hem of power. So I don't know why you are still excited that Francophones voted Frundi.
No, Chairman Chris, this is the point that I'm making. Now, you bring Camto and Dzongang, they're all birds of the same feather. They flock together. Maybe if there's something that many people don't know and that I struggle to explain to them. These guys are all they are all elements of the French. When I mean French, I mean France Afrique. They're all instruments or they're all tools that are being used by the France Afrique to impose its presence in Cameroon. This is, and that's why you would see when Kamto came to North America, he was not comfortable meeting with South Cameroonians that claim to be Ambazonians. But on the flip side, he was sending his agents to come and manipulate the Southern Cameroons. So now, where is the manipulation? The manipulation is from people like Kamto and Dzongang, because what people don't know is that Kamto is an employee.
So how do you think you can pass through Kamto to have a country in which English-speaking Anglophones, as you guys call it, find relevance in the leadership of the country?
No, we cannot. I mean, we are not saying that we would pass through Kamto. We would pass through a democratic system. We're never going to have a savior. No individual will come and save us from the present predicament. All what we need is a system in place. If there was a system, a democratic system in place in Cameroon in 1992, we would not be saying the same story today, because that system would have worked out itself. But you see, it was some individuals. And now, if we have to believe Dzongang, we have to believe all what he said. Because in that group, we forget to mention that there was Achiriachu in that group. So that's why I cannot go back to say that it was an all Francophone conspiracy. No, it was a conspiracy of the ruling regime, which recruits people from all over. Achiriachu was in that meeting with Dzongang. Achiriachu was among those who stood and said, Frundi cannot be president of Cameroon. And Dzongang is saying it proudly. Now, my problem that I have is that Kamto's people are supporting Dzongang. All of Kamto's people are supporting Dzongang. So it should tell us that the true political transition that can include the Anglophone problem cannot come from the MRC. Because now, and this is something that is also important, Chairman Chris, that I want us to understand. Dzongang is making a revelation. He's not making a repentance. And you see how arrogant he is in saying it. He said they had the power, that he was the instigator. So there is a difference between a revelation and a repentance. We don't see him being remorseful for what he did. Instead, he went ahead to justify that the reason why he thought Frundi should not be president was because he was a sorcerer. He was somebody catching bullets. But my question is, if the people decided a sorcerer should be their president, who are you to stand against the will of the people? Again, it is that elitist mindset where they think that they are more intelligent than everyone. They are smarter than everyone. So it's a problem of it's a problem of elitists against the popular, the masses. And that's where the problem lies. And that's what Dzongang displayed.
So, comrade, my question to you is, how do you go as an Ambazonian, Southern Cameroonian, who feels marginalized, not just marginalized, assimilated, and you are advocating for a federation instead of saying, you know what, if we will continue under this, we are seeing what your elite do, and if you're, and now we now have the evidence that your elite can never allow us sit on the same seat and have the same status in this country. So when you look at that barrier, they're essentially a barrier because it beats my imagination that Zang Ikindi, Buba Bello Maigare, Adamu Ndam Joya, Abed Dzongang and his team, they go, it appeared like they were resolved on handing that victory to Frundi. But look at what they did. They go down, meet Abuba Bello Maigare, Adamu Ndam Joya, and Zang Ikindi, other opposition leaders. And they said to them, Frundi has won. And we are a little bit concerned. What do you think we should do? You would think that the troll will say, if Frundi has won, give it to him. They said, no, give it. Give it back to Paul Biya. Give it back to Paul Biya. So, comrade, how do you navigate past the elite like this to think that Amazonians, Southern Cameroonians can find a place a place of equity in that country?
Yes, well, Chairman Chris, this is I agree with you on the fact that equity is a far-fetched norm in that our country, Cameroon. You know, equity is far-fetched. So it will be dreaming for me to think that those who are there can put in place a system that will provide us equity. Now, what is the solution? The solution is that we should rally the masses. We should appeal to those who thought that it was necessary for us to have a transformational change in Cameroon in 1992. Can we go back and look at the statistics and look at where the votes came from and appeal and take our case? Because we as Anglophone, we have a legitimate case. We have a case of marginalization. If the others don't want to claim an understanding of their problem, but we understand our problem. So we are saying, no, we want self-determination. We want self-determination as we had agreed in 1960 when we came together. We want self-determination that will guarantee us the vibrancy of our institutions, where we had our municipal police, we had our House of Chiefs, we had our local assembly in both the Northwest and the Southwest regions. So we want back all those institutions. Now, Secretary Chris, I am very confident that if we have our institutions, we will care less about who is at A2D. Because at the base, we would be able to manage the resource, we will be able to tap into the resources that would enable us to manage ourselves and to determine what trajectory we want to give to our development projects. It's very possible. So A2D only comes in play right now because it's a centralized system. They seem to control everything. That's why we're talking even about them. Secretary Chris, if everything was functional as it was predicated in the 1960 Constitution, the Northwest and Southwest would be probably like Dubai.
All right. Let me get to Comrade Dennis Atem, who is joining us from somewhere in Africa. Comrade Dennis, good to have you back here, sir. You listened to my monologue, and the crux of it centered around the fact that if Federalists think that they have a chance in one and indivisible Cameroon, that chance doesn't exist because their elite will never allow them handle any position of power or responsibility in that country. What is your take, sir?
Thank you very much, Comrade Chris, and thank you for your excellent monologue. I think you touched on every important point on this matter. It is important that we look at this question very broadly. The first question you should ask yourself is, will they not do exactly the same if an Ambazonian were to win elections today? They will do exactly the same. It is painful indeed that the Frundi who was cheated in broad daylight was the same Frundi acting against Ambazonians in his last days. He continued to act like a child, clinging onto Francophones and Paul Biya as if he had no home of his own. And that is the ridiculous thing that is happening to Southern Cameroonians. I regret that the last speaker was saying that, oh, it can still work. Now, we talked only of their elites. What about their soldiers? The military may just make a coup against any Anglophone who were to win.
And that's exactly
And let me ask you this. That is exactly the point, Comrade Chris. Very important. Now, you see, those who don't understand how federations work tell the people, oh, no, in a federation, you will just be doing your own thing in your own corner. The other one will be doing their own thing in their own corner. Let me ask you, how will you never have your own opinion to pass in the federal parliament? Remember that there must be a federal parliament which decides everything on the basis of majority in that parliament, in which you will be eternally a minority. How will your own opinion ever pass? That is the first thing you should think about when you think of a federation. As long as you are one country, they will come and become the majority in every classroom. They will be govern the economic life of your own federated state. There is nothing you will do. You will be completely meaningless. There is no instrument by which to prevent the majority from invading your own state and occupying it and doing whatever they like. Your own policies will never pass in the federal parliament. So where is the possibility that we can ever live together, any freedom to breathe? There is none. There is none. So we see how Francophones, both those in the opposition and in government, conspire against Anglophones when it comes to the issue of Anglophones. Sorry for using the word Anglophones. I'm speaking in the context of
Yeah, right.
Cameroon now,
we
not
know the
thinking,
context.
yes. So, yes. So you tell me, gentlemen, how it is possible that when the moment came, all of them rallied together, even whether they were in the opposition and in the ruling party, and said no to the Anglophone who won. And they will repeat that today. And they look at us as absolute fools who have their own home, they have their own territory, there's no treaty of union, there's no anything whatsoever. And you are so afraid to govern yourself, then you come and cling to them, and they're pushing you away, kicking you, showing all kinds of discrimination, and you keep singing that you want to be with them. How foolish is that? You tell me. How can a sheep enter into a contract with a wolf?
Yeah.
That is a question every ambassador should be asking himself. You say, okay, we will have a federation. What are you going to do to guarantee that La République respects the terms of that federation? Tell me. So I think we are just making ourselves ridiculous, complete fools, to see people who have said, both in government and in the opposition, that they will never respect us, they will never value anything that is our own. And even though we have a territory of our own, we have a population, we have every means to govern ourselves, we continue to cling on them and beg them to be together. That is complete stupidity. I regret to say that.
Yeah, before I get to Pa Ndangam, who is also here on the panel, what do you make of the fact that in all that arrangement, we do not see, because we thought France was behind this, but we do not see anything. Dzongang does not mention anything as far as the French are concerned. He talks about their meetings, the meetings they held, and they are moving to go talk to Buba Bello, Ndamjoya, and Ekindi. We see no rule of the French. Doesn't it make sense that we may be seated here thinking that France is our biggest problem, whereas the Francophone elite is actually our biggest problem?
No, Comrade Chris, there is a document that actually exists where France specifically instructs them that no Anglophone should ever be president, should ever rule Cameroon. There is that document that exists. Unfortunately, I cannot cite it to you now, but I have read that document and even instructions about language and so on. So I think they are working from those instructions that they had received from France previously. So you don't see the French immediately, but it exists in the instructions that they had received earlier from France to ensure that no Anglophone ever rules Cameroon.
All right. Let me get to Pa Augustine Dangam, who is also part of the panel here. Pa, there was some lighting, good lighting at your end. Oh, it seems he's out. Okay, I think we lost him. I see he's frozen. He's frozen on the screen there. He's not in. But Kennedy, sir, let me get back. Let me get back to you, because we have a problem that is going on, and that problem is no longer in Cameroon. It is between Ambazonia and Cameroon. Looking at the reality of things here, don't you think this is the moment where you guys take a hard look? And when I say you guys, I mean you in the Federalist movement. Don't you think it is the moment that you guys take a hard look and say to yourselves, Cameroon is not about to provide us a solution to this conflict? Number one, looking at the history, the narrative from Albert Dzongang. And number two, considering that for 7 years and counting, Cameroon refuses to sit down with us to figure out a solution to the conflict. You were in Yaoundé, you attended their grand national dialogue. You came back and as a straight forward man, you condemned it. 7 years after, comrade, they are not willing to talk. They're not even willing to talk to you, the Federalists. Don't you think it is time we join hands and say, let's fight for our own country?
Yes, Chairman Chris, I think we already came to that conclusion. What you just explained, we already understood that. We the Federalists, because we've been fighting with these people, not just from 2016, but we've been, my whole active life in politics, I've been fighting this regime since 1996, and before me, all the other Federalists. So we've come to the ultimate conclusion that the system in Yaoundé does not want us. The system in Yaoundé is not ready to deal with us. That's us, the Federalists. We've come to the conclusion that anything that is federalism is like poison to the system in Yaoundé. And that's why you see some of us have also come to the conclusion that we need to work together with our brothers who have gone completely discouraged and have turned their back to the system. But we need to get together to a point where we can have a hallelujah talk or come back to Jesus talk and say, okay, what is the most plausible way for us to obtain self-determination at the best cost possible? You know, and people say things. I will take, for instance, the speaker who is right on the screen, who came in, he said some very important things with regards to France. Although Dzongang might not have mentioned France, but he is a good student of France. So the student does not always have to quote the master for you to know that what he is regurgitating came from the master. That's just what France wanted. But at the end of the day, we have always have open doors. Even that's why I applaud our late Chairman John Frundi, whenever he had the opportunity to sit with his brothers that call themselves Ambazonian today, Frundi will not hesitate to sit. I know he was on your platform. So, first of all, just being on this platform, you know what it can mean on us, Federalists. It means a lot. We value this. But again, at the same time, we can be taxed as Ambazonia. And I always tell people, I am closer to Ambazonia than I can be closer than compared to being closer to the regime. It's just that I cannot be Ambazonia. I cannot be that regime. No, it's out of question. But I share more in common. It's just that the way that they have chosen, I will say this and say this all over again. So, taking from my mentor, John Frundi, we have that open door policy. We know that the solution will come if we Anglophones can sit together and come with a consensus. And now,
the question will be, why are you not taking that initiative? I mean, I want to abstain from any meeting you invite me, though you are Federalist, I am Independentist, I will still come to that meeting. So why are you guys only talking and not taking the initiative?
Okay, I mean, then we would take that initiative if we have that open door, because we've tried before and it didn't work. I remember the last time the chairman came here, he had to meet with you, I think in Minnesota. Something happened, that meeting finally did not hold because you had the
I met with
schedule.
him. I met with him.
Oh, in Minnesota. Okay. So that's just one example that we are meeting, we are talking. But now it has to be in a whole different forum. And also, let also the Ambazonian admit something. They are very fragmented. When you take what is happening, when you take the people like Ayabacho and all the rest, ask yourself the question, to what direction are they even taking their people? You know, so even though some of these people that call themselves Ambazonians are more of La République than even La République, because La République has its own Ambazonians that they have created and weaponized and that are creating havoc. So if you guys don't admit that a lot of these problems that we are having now in our two regions is because of these fake Ambazonians that are being weaponized by the regime, then we will be heading nowhere.
I don't understand how that stops you in the Federalist movement from coming together, holding your meetings, discussing your own strategy. How does that stop you?
No, I will tell you how it stops us. I'll take for instance, we saw what happened in 2020, the 2020 election. The SDF could not hold a rally in Batibo, but Ayabacho's guy were able to allow the CPDM to hold a rally. That is where we of the SDF we understood that there is a conspiracy.
Comrade, Ayaba will do what he has to do. I here will do what I have to do. Why is the Federalist movement not doing what they have to do? I'm talking about, as you mentioned, coming together to discuss and strategize about some of the things you are talking about. Or do you hope that the independentists deliver federalism into your hands?
No, it's going to happen. We're going to come together. I can promise you, we would come together. We would have that open door. We would talk amongst ourselves. Now that things are opening up, we are having these conversations. I think it's great time for us to come back together and see how we can have a solution, which is our solution.
I'm hoping that if and when you people come together, you should be asking yourself, how do the Anglophones in your terminology find a way past the Francophone elite? That is where the trouble is as far as your aspirations are concerned. But let me go to Comrade
No, just
Dennis.
let me just add something, please, before you go
Okay.
to me. No, our biggest problem is the Anglophone elites. Biggest problem is the Anglophone elites. If the Anglophone elites were with us, we would not even be where we are today. So before we start talking about the Francophone elites, let's solve the problem from the Anglophone elites in the likes of Atanganji.
What would you expect them to do? The Atangangis and the rest, what would you expect them to do?
Let's come to the understanding that we would ostracize them. Let's come to the understanding that we will no more be mixing things and saying that, oh no, we have problems because of Francophone elites. Because now when we say our problem is because of the Francophone elites, these Anglophone elites are happy because they hide, they have a camouflage. So we cannot offer the Anglophone elites.
But don't you realize what you are saying is tantamount to saying we independentists saying our problem is the Federalists.
But your problem is not the Federalists, because
well, that's what I'm saying. So why can't you put aside those who do not want to work with you? The elite you are referring to, they are Tangangis, the Dion Gutes and the Ngoles, the Ngala Gerards. Why can't you forget about them and fight for what you believe in?
Isn't that what we are all doing? Even the Ambazonians, even although we don't even agree with the Ambazonians taking out weapons, aren't we all sidelining them? But they're still in the way. We don't agree with those elites. Ambazonians don't agree with those elites, but they are still a thorn in our flesh. So that's why I'm saying we need to come and have a hallelujah moment and push the button where it is necessary. It is this Anglophone elite. It is them. They are the first roadblock that we have. Now, are they the only problems that we have? No, they are not the only problems. They are the first hurdle that we have to cross. Once we cross over that hurdle of Anglophone elites, now we can manage the rest.
All right. Let me get Dennis's take on what you have just said. Dennis, please.
Comrade Chris, now I'm surprised that there is still one person who is saying that they don't know how this conflict will end. This is not the first decolonization struggle taking place. No, there have been so many, and each time the process of ending it is the same. That is why we have called for a referendum that will give the Federalists a chance, the Independentists a chance, the Unionists a chance to express themselves. That is the only valid way to end this struggle. Because if the Independentists impose their own opinion, the Federalists will contest it. If the Federalists impose their own opinion, the Independentists will contest it. So therefore, the best solution is a referendum for the people of Ambazonia to decide their fate for themselves. That is as simple as that. In Algeria, it was a referendum that solved the situation. In Eritrea, it was a referendum. In East Timor, it was a referendum. In South Sudan, it was a referendum. Everywhere. I wrote an article called The Abysmal Failure of Federations in the World. Let our colleague who is talking about federation, let him show me a working example of a federation in Africa. Let him show us. Look, you see, federations are built on the principle of trust. They are built on the principle of common understanding. If people are not mature enough, they can never form federation because there will be no reason for me to have my house, then invite my neighbor. They will no, let's take down our boundary and create one house out of two houses. It never works, sir. It never works. It never works. When you see a federation, know that one power had colonized the other and was gracious enough to grant that other some amount of freedom. That's all. It cannot be that two people with reasonable minds come together. It is impossible. Look at Czechoslovakia. Why did they suddenly say, no, we have been pretending long enough, let us peacefully separate? So I want our people to understand that federation is not something that works. It doesn't work, especially in Africa. It works. See all the attempts that have been made to form federations in Africa. None of them worked. None of them worked. And our people are here talking about federation. Where will you carve the people from wood? How will you make them understand? It is impossible for any federation to work amongst people who are just struggling to survive.
No,
it is impossible.
Very scary.
Not only that, of course, that is it is. Not only that, remember as I have told you that any federation between Ambazonia and La République du Cameroon is like a contract between a sheep and a wolf. Tell me how that contract will ever work. In the federal parliament, you will be a minority forever. They will swarm your schools and be a majority in schools. They will take over the economy. There is no way in which you can prevent them from taking over your economy. There is no instrument in a federation by which you can prevent them from becoming a majority in every classroom. There's simply none. Go back to Quebec, for example, and see Bill 101. No, please, gentlemen, let me speak. Go back to Quebec and see Bill 101. Do you know why Bill 101 was passed? To try to fight English. Because the French province discovered that everywhere was English. They came up with the rule that in order to put up an English signboard, you also have to put up a French signboard. Even there, it did not work. You see, once you place yourself a minority amongst a majority, there is nothing you will do. You will be taken over completely. So the only solution is a referendum in which our people would decide whether they want to be slaves forever or they want to live in their own country, inherit their own, exercise their own inherited culture, and enjoy their life peacefully forever without ever being oppressed by anybody or being told by anybody what to do. Because no federation will work. No federation can work. This is clear. This is clear. Unless somebody just
Now,
wants to deceive themselves.
no, please,
Yes,
Chairman, please.
but
Let me interject.
hold on there, Kennedy. Would you, I mean, why don't you federalists think that you can join hands with us and we promote this idea of a United Nations supervised referendum? It will meet your needs, it will meet our needs, it will meet the needs of those one Cameroonese who feel like, I mean, like the Dzongang you are talking about. It will be equity put on a level playing field for everybody.
Absolutely.
Why can't
Absolutely.
you guys rally around
Absolutely.
it? I mean, I think this is a common area where we should all agree on, because you will not be cheated. I will not be cheated. Listen, if there was a referendum tomorrow and Ambazonians vote to stay with Cameroon, I will say, hey, the people have spoken, and I will give up. Why would I keep fighting? So why can't we do this together?
Exactly.
Yes, before I reach to that your question, Secretary Chris, for the first time, I will not say the first time, but this is one of the rare moments where I have gotten completely scared by somebody who calls himself an Ambazonian. Because from the ideological perspective, I have always thought that Ambazonians are federalists, even when they will create their Ambazonia. I've always heard it as a federal republic of Ambazonia. So that's why I, as a federalist, I always say, and I've said it multiple times on your platform, that when you put the Bias and the Ambazonians, I will choose the Ambazonians, because despite the fact that they have different methods, but from an ideological spectrum, I agree with them, because they are working on the idea that federalism is a strong form of government. Now, my brother has said so many things. You can prove anything. You can prove that God does not exist, as you can prove that God exists. Now you can prove that federalism does not work. And then you will take all the examples in this world where federalism has worked, and you will develop theses and write tons of books, as well as somebody can decide that he's going to prove how federalism works and would write tons of books with cases of federalism that have worked and prospered the people. So please, are you telling me that when an Ambazonia even would exist, it will have a centralized system of government? No, if that's what Ambazonia
No,
is
gentlemen, let us be clear. We are talking of federation between two separate countries. Federation between two separate countries. That's what we're talking about. We are not talking of a domestic structure of governance. You see, that is very different. America is a domestic structure of governance. It is not. It does not work between separate territories and separate countries. That is what I'm telling you. It does not work. I asked you to give us one single example in Africa of a federation between two separate countries. That is working.
Let me answer the question about the referendum. See, we are clear. I'm not getting audio.
It's Comrade Chris, your audio.
All right, hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Let me simplify what Dennis was saying there, Comrade Kennedy. I think he is looking at a federation within Ambazonia is not a problem, because there are no divides. The same culture, the same language, the same traditions. Now, you will take us into a federation with La République du Cameroon. Forever, we remain the minority. Because if 100 parliamentarians are coming from La République du Cameroon, maybe 15 or 20 are coming from Ambazonia. How can Ambazonians win a bill or even pass a bill in their parliament or in their senate? If there are 100 so-called divisional officers, to which we don't even believe in them, because that is their culture. It is not your culture. It is not our culture. It is their culture. So when you put these things into perspective, you realize that even a federation, you still have no say. You are still dominated and probably marginalized in a federal structure with La République du Cameroon. But a federal structure within Ambazonia, hey, we are not looking at who is speaking French, who is speaking English. We are all speaking English, the same culture, everything, the same system of education, the same legal system. So there will be no inclination to make some laws to favor anybody. It will not exist. I think that's the point he is making here.
That is the point. That is the point. That is the point.
Okay, then you should have come out clear and hail federalism than trying to throw federalism out there as if it was a monstrous thing. Because that's what I could take from it. Now,
it is monstrous in the context of Ambazonia and La République.
I mean, let's not divide ourselves even more. That's what I want to say, because there are some things that, I mean, when it comes to me debating with Ambazonians, my heart pains, and I don't even want to go hard, because I know that they are genuine, they have a problem, you know. So when I walk in my debate with Ambazonian, it's like I'm walking on eggshells, because I know when you're already working with people that have the same problem like you, people who are suffering like you, even if you don't agree, but respect some of their opinion. I'll respect his opinion on that point, but we've come back to the conclusion that federalism is a great form of government, even if it has to be practiced internally within Ambazonia. Now, when it comes to a referendum, we've always said, some of us, we are open for a referendum, but we cannot want to repeat the scenario of 1959 moving into 1961, where we had the plebiscite. Now, before we can even talk about a referendum, let's first have an Anglophone come together so that we would decide that, okay, what are the main tendencies amongst us? Because it's those tendencies that they will put on the plebiscite or the referendum question. So we can all just jump and say, yes, we want a referendum, and they say, okay, they're organizing a referendum in 2 months, and right after that, it becomes another problem because we'll be contesting the method and everything. Let them give us that way. That's why we've always said we want an all-inclusive Anglophone movement. That's why we supported the Cardinal Tumi approach with Dr. Munzu. I mean, Munzu was fought against by radical Ambazonians who have nothing to do even with the welfare of the Ambazonian people. But just because, you know, they are feeding fat on this concept of Ambazonian, and they knew that if Anglophones come and sit together, right-meaning Anglophones, it would give a positive trajectory. There are some people that thrive in chaos. Even among the Ambazonians, we have to accept there are some people that thrive in this chaotic situation, just as the Biya regime is thriving in this chaotic situation. So now let's all come together. Yes, we can have a referendum. And now even talking about a referendum include Francophones, as we call them, Francophones. But if the 1960 constitution was not violated, they could not abrogate the federation, because the constitution provision that should have prevented Ayijo from doing what he did. So now Ayijo used a coup de force to do it. Did he do it because he's a Francophone? No, he didn't do it because he's a Francophone.
Yes, and they will always use it, my brother. They will always use it.
No,
they will always use it.
That's the truth. That's the fact. Now, before he could,
you know, that is why we're asking the question. That's why we're asking the question: how a sheep can get into a contract with a wolf? Because you see, there will be no way for the sheep to get the wolf to obey anything, to live by the contract. That is the issue. Because you see, every Francophone will do it. Because the Fundis tells you that every Francophone in power will do exactly what Ayijo did. Yes, because for them, joining with us was simply a step to assimilate and colonize us. It was not a step for us to live together, allowing each person to do their own thing. No. And he just said it over and over. All of them have said it. Kamto has said it. It is simply le Cameroun a fait son histoire. That's all. For them, coming together with, in fact, they don't even call it coming together. They are claiming unification. That is to say, they claim that they are the successor state to German Cameroon, and we are a part of them. Because the concept of reunification is to say that La République du Cameroon is the successor state to German Cameroon. Because La République du Cameroon and the Southern Cameroon have never been one at any time in the past. No. So understand it, my brother. Those who continue to say we should come together, this and that, if this did not happen, it will always happen because the same mindset persists and the same people persist. And you can see their parliament has not even spent 1 minute debating the war that is going on in Amazonia. You get the point. Imagine if it were in their territory, would you think they would not have discussed it? So, my brother, let us stop deceiving ourselves. This is terrible thing for us to see danger like this and keep fooling ourselves that it can work. It can never work. There's no way for it to
No,
work.
it's working.
If you are
I'll tell
going
you
into
something.
it, the best way would be for you to just cross over and live there and enjoy that system and know that you enjoy that system more than the Amazonian system.
No,
That is the better approach.
let's be honest to ourselves. If you see the tendency, I can guarantee you that if you organize a referendum in Cameroon today and then you put the Federalist question on the table, about 80%, because we've done those opinion polls, 80% of Francophones today think that the best form of government is the federal system of government. And major
amongst themselves. Yes, we have agreed, my brother, that look, a federation in one country is like several rooms in a house. But a federation between two countries, like trying to break the boundary that separates your own house from your neighbor's own and cause the two of you to join houses. This is what a federation between independent states is like. And it's a terrible, terrible, terrible evil. Because as they say, good boundaries make good neighbors. No crazy person, no matter how stupid he is, has ever suggested that the separate his own house from that of his neighbor should be removed so that the two houses should be joined.
No,
Anybody who tries that from whatever theory will live to regret it. That is the issue of federation between two separate countries and two separate territories. It had never worked anywhere in the world. It has never worked.
No, we claim
All right,
that we are
Kennedy, give it a last thought and let's move to the next subject, please.
I mean, yes, so I was saying, the fact of the matter is that before the First World War, we were a German territory that was separated. And after that, we came back together and it didn't work. So
no.
Now, how do we rebuild? But that's the truth now. That's the truth. Now, let's be intellectually honest. It's facts that I'm stating.
Was there a common parliament? No, tell me what was common in German Cameroon. Did we have a common assembly? Did we have political parties? What was there that brought us together as a people? Or that made a people out of the people who were occupied by Germany? Okay, show me one thing that made the people one country.
Okay, one thing that made the people one territory is the fact that they had one colonial master. And that's what was operating then. No, let's be intellectually dishonest.
You mean for the short 31 years that the German occupied what they call German Cameroon before the First World War broke out, right? You want to create the entire future of those people on the basis of the 31 odd years when they were just struggling to make the roads to get into the hinterland, right?
Okay, what makes a Bamenda Kwe man alike with a Mendakwe man, with a Bouncer man? What makes a Widiku man alike with a Gembo man? What makes a Meta man alike with a Bakosi man? Please, let's not go down that way. It's a very slippery ground that we cannot go there because it defeats what we are trying to build. When we start asking those minuscule questions, we are trying to build.
It
We
is
are
not
saying that,
minuscule.
okay,
You know what, my brother?
no,
Let me
if
explain
you
something to
if
you.
you ask
You see, in international law, your date of birth is the date on which you had independence. Once you have that, you cannot talk about another country, a previous past. No, it is impossible. The German Cameroon that you were talking about was dismembered in 1919. So
okay,
nobody can go back and say they want to revive Germany. And if you are talking of German Cameroon, it included parts of Chad, Central African Republic, the Congo, and so on. So why is La République de Cameroon claiming those parts? If you are talking of
okay. Now, no,
reunification or whatever.
I have a simple question to you. I like this debate. I have a simple question to
Yes,
you. When did
yes.
Southern Cameroon ever become a country according to international
It is
law?
not about
When?
becoming. Listen, my brother. It is not about becoming a country
Totality just
because we
said.
had the
let's
statehood.
hold on with that.
Listen, listen,
Now,
listen, listen.
this is a debate that I don't like.
Listen,
I
And
don't
listen,
let's
like when
hold on
people.
with
listen,
that. Let's
listen,
hold on with
listen,
that because that
listen,
is my next
listen.
subject. Please. Let's hold on with
Okay,
that. That
good.
is my next subject. We'll be
Okay.
coming right to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay put as I come back with my next talking point on the circulated document making the rounds out there on the social media by surrogates and activists from La République du Cameroun that indeed, there was a treaty of union. There is a document they have out there. Please, I will be right back in a second. All right, ladies and gentlemen, two documents are making the rounds out there. One, a document between the British and La République du Cameroun in 1961, passing or handing over the former British Southern Cameroons to La République du Cameroun, and in return, a letter of acknowledgement from the leader of La République du Cameroun, Amadou Ahidjo, acknowledging the handing over of the Southern Cameroons to La République du Cameroun, and they are calling it proof of a union treaty. La République du Cameroun's activists are circulating these two documents, purportedly signifying the transfer of power from British trusteeship over Southern Cameroons to La République du Cameroun, masquerading as a union treaty between the two entities. However, their claims are far from the truth. The documents exchanged between the British and La République du Cameroun do not constitute the comprehensive treaty of union that was envisaged by Article 1608. Rather, they represent a formal surrender of administrative authority over the Southern Cameroons following United Nations same resolution 1608. It is crucial to clarify that the Treaty of Union was intended to be a contract signed between the Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon, outlining the terms of the union. What transpired between Yaoundé and the British merely marked the transfer of authority, not the establishment of a union. The unilateral presentation of power to La République du Cameroun alone constitutes a breach of the intended process, as the transfer should have involved both the Southern Cameroon's government and the government of La République du Cameroun. That did not happen. Essentially, what occurred was not the birth of a unified entity, but a transition from one colonial authority to another, in this case, La République du Cameroun assuming control. The Articles of Union, as stipulated in UN Resolution 1608, were meant to define the rules and conditions governing the union of the two independent states. If La République du Cameroun's activists and surrogates insist on presenting these handing over documents as proof of a union treaty that all of us have been asking for, then they must provide the provisions of that treaty for public scrutiny. The truth must not be obscured by misrepresentation and deception. And that is, let's get back to that debate. Let me start with Comrade Kennedy out there. Comrade, what do you think? Are you one of those who believe that there was a treaty of union binding La République du Cameroun and the Southern Cameroons? What is your belief on this?
Now, my belief on this is that I'm categorically opposed to this document that is being presented right now as a treaty of union, because in actual fact, it is no treaty of union. Now, and the presentation of this document justifies again what Federalists have been saying. The only valid treaty of union that was violated by elements of the Yaoundé regime is the 1961 Constitution. And those people cannot even show us that Constitution. They cannot even stand. The Unionists cannot even stand by that Constitution, because one, when they present that Constitution, they would fail the test for having violated Article 47 of that Constitution. Now they want to distract us with another document that has no value, because by this other document, there's nowhere where we can hold them accountable. But if we go to what we consider as a Treaty of Union in 1961 that entered into effect on the 1st of October 1961, we would see that there is a cause for us Anglophone to be angry, and very angry, as some of my brothers, even Ambazonia, are angry, because we were insulted, despised, violated with what had been put in paper. Let's go back and read the Constitution of 1961. Article 47. How could Aijo call a referendum in 1972? So even in international law, these people, they will fail the case if we focus on the facts and the reality. But that's a big distraction. And no federalist, no right-minded Cameroonian should fall on this garbage and take it to be something real.
It is quite interesting to get that coming from you. So how then do you deny the premise of going back to a free and independent Ambazonia?
No, my issue is that factually, what people call free and independent Ambazonia, nobody is putting a timeline to it, because there was never a free and independent Ambazonia. What we have, and I will go with historical facts, and if anybody wants to contest that, they have to bring the facts. And even in international law, I don't know why our Anglophone lawyers are not even doing their due diligence, because there was an international conspiracy against Anglophones, and Britain should be held liable for that conspiracy. Britain and France conspired, and I will take you the documents, and if someone is there taking notes today, let them take these notes and take that to the British, and the British have to respond, because this is where the conspiracy started. It started on the 5th of December 1958, because I'm holding the document. It's a United Nations document, and I'm going to read. Take note. On the 5th of December 1958, at the 782nd plenary meeting of the United Nations, the question on the future of the trust territory came on the table. Why France said this? This is what France said about its own territory. I'm going there on it is resolution 1282, and you go on section 1. It says this is what France said. Note the declaration of the government of France that the Cameroon under French administration is to achieve independence on 1st January 1960, thus fulfilling the objectives of the trusteeship system. So France was categorical. France was without ambiguity. But this is where the British sold us. This is where we have to go back to Britain and tell the British man, why did you do this to us? Because this was their answer at that General Assembly meeting. Note, the statement made by the representative of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland that the Cameroons under United Kingdom administration is expected to achieve in 1960 the objectives set forth in Article 76 of the Charter of the United Nations. This is the ambiguity. While France stated clearly that its own portion would achieve independence, but Britain refused to admit that we, the Anglophones, would achieve independence. Now they sent us, and I'm going to read it. They sent us to Article 76B of the Charter of the United Nations. See where the ambiguity lies. This is the ambiguity. This is what it says. Now, let me read the Article 76 in its entirety. The basic objectives of the trusteeship system in accordance with the purposes of the United Nations laid down in Article 1 of the present charter shall be to further international peace and security. That's A. Now B, to promote the political, economical, social, and educational advancement of the inhabitants of the trust territories and their progressive development towards self-government or independence as may be appropriate to the particular circumstances of each territory and its people, and the freely expressed wishes of the people concerned as they may be provided by the terms of each trusteeship. So the ambiguity is that France said they are giving independence. Britain did not want to give us independence. That's why they sent us to Article 76B, where it talks about self-determination or independence. So now, Britain, what did you actually give to us? Is it self-determination or independence? You see where the international conspiracy lies. And that's what brings us back to Article 1608. Because when you see Article 1608, Article 1608 comes to validate a plebiscite that was organized. I mean, there was a lot. I mean, we are suffering because of all of this international conspiracy. We are in a quagmire. It's a difficult situation. But how do we make the best out of it?
Comrade, you asked the question, when did we first become independent? Where did we ever get independence? If I may ask you, did we take any instructions from from the British to cut off from Nigeria to form our government in Boya?
Now, I don't understand the premises of your question.
The premises of our question is that if we were living like, as we live like a Republic of Cameroon, we go back to the government we had in Boya that started in 1954. We had an independent country. We had a parliament. We had a prime minister. We had a cabinet. We had everything that you can think of in the government. The government is not necessarily something that is ordained somewhere. I think it's a form as far as it has independence. So we are a government. In fact, we are told that we learned in history that we were the first independent country in Africa by virtue of we forming a government and running ourselves. Why is it wrong to go back to there? I really appreciate your outrage about what the British do, but I think to solve it, you need to look at it the way we are doing it and saying, you know what, the British handed us over to the French, it is time to get back.
what you are saying is correct. I understood the premises of your question. We had all those institutions, but now it was under the ambit of Article 76 of the Charter of the United Nations Charter, because we were a trustee territory, which is different from a colonial territory, and the mandate that the administrating authorities, that's the quote unquote the colonial power had, is that they had a mandate to lead us towards independence. Britain failed to lead us towards independence.
We are agreed. We are agreed. Completely agreed.
So now all those institutions that we had,
with that,
we had them under a trusteeship. The statutes that we had as of 1954 was a trust territory. That's why you see that.
Yes, but it was self-governing. It was
Self-governing.
trust territory, but self-governing.
Of course.
Okay, then it's take over.
Let me just take over. We have internationally demarcated boundaries guaranteed by international treaties. So, our gentleman, our countryman is insinuating that since we did not have independence, we were a no man's territory that could be taken over by La Republic of what? No. We had international boundaries. We had a prime minister. We had a constitution. We had a cabinet. We had political parties. We had a territory of our own. Every single thing that a state needs, we had, and we're governing ourselves. On what basis was Frontier negotiating with Ahijo if we were not a territory? So let us be clear about that. Let us be clear about that.
No, we had a territory. That's
not only that, the United Nations voted overwhelmingly for independence on the 21st of April 1961 in Resolution 1608. So the fact that independence has been suppressed should not cause anybody to raise the issue whether we were ever an independent country, whether we were independent or not in terms of international law. It does not arise at all, because we had a territory that nobody could cross the boundary simply because we were not independent. If you have a boundary that nobody can cross, what is that then? What is that then?
Colonies had territories.
No, tell me, gentlemen, tell me, if you have a boundary that demarcates it and you are the one who governs that territory, how can anybody now say that you are not free? Tell me.
No, we were a trust. No, we were
the fact that Britain.
No, that's our status.
No, being a trust territory does not mean that. No, you see, being a trust territory does not mean that you are not able to govern yourself. It does not mean that you do not have international personality. We had international personality, and that's why people are even talking of a union treaty. A treaty can only be made between states, isn't it? That's why people are even inventing the concept of a treaty. Sorry. I'm just saying that is why people are even talking of a union. I'm not yet commenting on whether that idea is true or not. No, I just want to let you understand that the question should never arise when we're independent, because that is to say that the Republic had some right over us because we were not independent. No, not at all. Because we had a territory. La Republique could not cross, exactly. La Republique could not cross our boundaries without the laissez-passer. So that is the most important element to distinguish that we were a separate people governing ourselves.
We should not. I like us to really use this moment for a teaching moment, especially those who are watching us from Ground Zero, because I had to talk about this subject because I received some messages from Ground Zero, and this paper was circulated by French Cameroon activists, and people were like, "Hey, look at the document that was signed between the British and La République du Cameroon, and you guys said there was no Treaty of Union." I think what we want people to understand, listening and watching at us, is that the Treaty of Union was supposed to be like a contract with specifications as per how Cameroon and La République du Cameroon were going to come together. Were they going to have the same police force? Were they going to have a was Southern Cameroon going to have a gendarmerie force? Were there going to be SDOs in Ambazonia or Southern Cameroons? All of this is were to be spelled out in anything treaty of union. What you have handed to the handed to the French by the British was supposed to be handed to both the Southern Cameroonians and the French Cameroonians. That did not happen. They just walked over to Yaoundé and handed this piece of paper to La République du Cameroon, went over to the United Nations General Assembly, and presented evidence that they have finally walked away from the Southern Cameroons, and they handed it over to French Cameroon. Now, when we ask them what arrangement per article or resolution 1608 did you provide for that union between the two countries? That is what we are asking for. It does not exist. Folks, let our people understand this.
Comrade Chris, let me tell you something.
Let me intervene here a little bit. Comrade Chris, you know what? Yeah. We're even talking about this only out of the necessity to educate our people. You Absolutely. See, if you are not a lawyer, let us not go talking about treaties and when people don't even understand what it is. You see, those who are bringing this confusion and citing a document made by a third party as a treaty are absolutely absurd. So it is just that our people will be confused by this. That's what we're talking about, because you can't people like this claiming that a document made by Britain on behalf of Southern Cameroon, and not even a document made on behalf of Southern Cameroon, could by some miracle become a union treaty. No, it cannot. You set everything when you introduce the subject. There are no terms in that so-called treaty. There is no content in it, and so on. So it is made by a third party. It must be between the Southern Cameroons and La République du Cameroon. You see, this is why we should not even be discussing, because it is only the court of law that can examine any claim of there being a treaty or not. But this can
that's why I keep and I emphasize this point when Chairman Chris introduced this topic. I totally rejected what is circulating, because it's a distraction. They want to distract us from what is the main problem, because wherever in international circles, in legal circles internationally, wherever they've introduced a conversation about Cameroon and the 1961 constitution, the regime in Yaoundé fails the case. Because up to now, there is no legal substance as to justify why Ayijo organized a referendum in 1972. So, without a legal justification, the referendum of 1972 is abrogated. And now, when we talk about specific terms as to how we could live together, they're all stipulated in the 1961 Constitution. And these guys were uncomfortable with that 1961 Constitution because it gave us the full right of self-determination. People should go back and read that 1961 Constitution. Initially, I used to blame our forebears. That's our parents who went to Fumban. And I think blaming our parents who went to Fumban was a strategy of those who are against us to distract us from seeing the formidable work that they did. Because once everybody says that, oh, in Fumban, nothing was done, then you don't even pay attention to what was done in Fumban. But I mind, this is that constitution. If you take the 1961 constitution and read to the Francophones, to the regime in Yaoundé, they have no argument. They have no legal standing. Because the constitution is clear. The constitution said you should never ever have a debate as to the form of the government. And the constitution of 1961 said, in order to pass a law, because my brother raised that issue, that, okay, we have a parliament, a federal parliament. How would law pass there that would guarantee us? Now, in the 1961 constitution, it is clearly stipulated that for any federal law to pass, it must go to the Eastern House of Assembly and have a vote of the majority. It must also go to the West House of Assembly and have a vote. So if all of the Francophones voted a law majority and the Anglophones do not vote that law, it cannot pass. It is in the 1961 Constitution. So all of those things were guaranteed. But for long, they manipulated us. That, oh, no, don't look what was done in Fumba. Why? But when we start looking at it, let's take that as a basis. Even if we have to roll back things, even if we want to say that we want to exist pre-1961, let's first say, let's go to the drawing board and start the conversation from 1961 and see how we can go back.
I hope that you in the Federalist movement will initiate that those talks, and let's see where it leads us. I'd be more than glad to join you guys and discuss that. But let me give, since Dennis wants to say something, then I will open the phone line.
Yes, I want to say something. I heard our colleague saying that the 1961 Constitution was a union treaty. That's a terrible mistake. And the only way I will show you is look at the European Union. You see, their constitution is different from the treaty that created that union. You must understand that. The 1961 constitution was a domestic law of La République du Cameroon. Neither the Assembly of the Southern Cameroons endorsed it, nor the people of the Southern Cameroons. In fact, I want anybody, let our colleague produce any document signed by Hijo and Foncha that came out of Fumba. No, there was no such document. This constitution was actually promulgated on the 1st of September, 1 month before the termination of the trusteeship. So it can never, by any miracle, become a union treaty. It was not a union treaty. A union treaty is a contract between two nations.
And again,
it is not a
never signed by anybody.
It is not a domestic constitution. Exactly. It is not a domestic constitution of La République du Cameroon, modified to accommodate us as they called it. We should never make the mistake of calling that constitution either even a binding element or a union treaty, because it is not. It is a domestic law of one of the purported federated states. Let me make it very clear.
But my brother, I have a question. When did we ever become independent? Honestly.
No, I'm asking you. No. Yes. After in fact, I don't want to go back to the history and you see the intricacies that existed after the United Nations voted for independence. If go back and read the British papers and see the conditions under which Foncha had at the end to accept that La République du Cameroon should take responsibility for the security in the Southern Cameroon on the withdrawal of the British. Have you ever had time to read the British declassified files, my brother? Because you must read it to understand. Yes, you must read it to understand.
I brought all of these documents.
All right, listen, gentlemen,
yes.
We're going to end this debate here and get to
no, but I want you to understand that I want you to define what you mean by independence, because if we were governing ourselves, we were entering into treaties, we had a boundary that nobody could cross. I don't know what you mean by not being independent.
No, independent means we had a coat of color, we had a national anthem, we had the possibility of entering into treaties with other nations. We all know that we have a place in the United Nations as an independent nation. We never had that. Now, this is what happened.
Yes, that is only because you see. Let me. Yes.
Let me answer you.
Yes.
Hold on. You've asked the question. Let me answer you. We never had a representation at the United Nations as an independent nation, which was a concert of nations according to international law. What happened is that every year, Britain and France will come and give a report to the United Nations General Assembly of their management of the trusteeship, because we belong to the United Nations and not to Britain or France. No, mark you, as a trust territory, we belong to the United Nations. And that's why we were under the trusteeship section of the United Nations. So there was a section in the United Nations that was specifically for trust territory, where everything was managed from there. So France will go and give the report. The General Assembly will vote and say, okay, you are following the instructions that we have given you on how to manage our territory. We belong to the United Nations because the United Nations seized us from it was a League of Nations that first of all took us from Germany. When they took us from Germany, and then when the United Nations was formed, we became a trusted territory of the United Nations. That's why when we go to international law and we keep saying that we're independent, it makes us look as if we're a joke. Because even the United Nations where we sit, the United Nations is going to ask us a question: when were you independent? That's the question.
Of
And
course,
if
we
you
will
cannot
show
answer
the
that,
resolution, the vote. We will show the vote on our independence, my brother. We will show the vote at the United Nations on our independence. Of course, that is
when
enough
did that
evidence.
vote occur?
You see,
When did that vote
on the
occur?
21st of April 1961,
No,
a
let me read
vote
what
of
happened on the.
63
No,
votes, a
let me
vote
read
of 63
exactly.
votes for, 10
No,
against, and
hold on. I have
23,
it right here
10
in front of me.
abstention and 23 against.
No, hold
Pardon?
on. Let me read what happened. Please, Chairman Chris. Please, Chairman Chris. 1 minute, please. Let me read to you a little section
No,
of what
Right.
we're not
happened in
going to do that
1961.
now. We're not going to do that now. Time is
No,
up
what is
against.
the, let our colleague
I have
tell
it
us
right
what
here.
is the
Time
purpose
is
of
up. Time
asking
is
when
up
we became
against us.
independent?
Time is
What
up
is the
against
purpose
us.
of
Let's
asking
get to
when
the
we became
phones.
independent?
Let's get to the phones and then get out of here. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Where are you calling from?
Hello. Yes, from ground zero.
Okay, and what is on your mind, sir?
Yeah. Yes, I'm calling from ground zero,
Okay.
precisely in the northern zone.
All right, go on.
Yes, I want to ask Mr. Kennedy.
Okay.
Since the beginning of this crisis, houses are being burned, people are being killed. I mean, even civilians, old mothers and children. As he is saying that we should stay back in a federation state, I don't know anybody from that francophone has ever come out and tried to quarrel or try to say something against what La Republic is doing. I want him to tell us whether just one person has come on the media and told the public or asked Paul Biya that why is he killing all of us in Bazonia? Because he wants to stop us not to stay as an independent state. Nobody has come from that territory to even question or to support us that the government should stop killing us. Has anybody? Why is he fighting for a federation that we must stay with those people?
All right, thank you. Thank you for the question. Thank you. Thank you. Let's get to the next caller and then we have the answers. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Where are you calling from?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
From ground zero. Just that you gone off on Facebook. I was watching by Facebook.
Yeah, so I don't know
There
why
is
it's Facebook shutting us down, but it's back up there now. Go on. What is your question?
Yeah, I just want to tell our brother there is something that they are not understanding. You cannot fight anything with the Republic. What we have to do now is to fight for our freedom, nothing else. There is nothing else. There is nothing that you are going to discuss with these people that will change the condition. They have formed and they have been to kill us. So the only thing is that our brother there, I don't know how people that are mature with white hairs that they will be claiming as if this matter is not negotiation, this matter is fighting to the end. Let them will provide guns and will keep fighting. When they have the heat of it, they will come to the table and will bring the right document. I don't see why people are biting here, Federalist here. A brother is saying that this thing doesn't work. It doesn't work. So he should leave it. Our own is fighting. We are not hearing anything because these people have formed a system that you cannot penetrate. You cannot.
Yeah.
I'm in ground zero. You cannot. Let them leave it. It's only fight that will move ourselves from this regime. is fighting, nothing else. Because if you go by document, they will still treat it, and their corrupt means they will still go on with us. If you go to vote, they will still do us, and I don't even see anything like that. So
All
we
right.
stand fighting.
All right, thank you. Let's get to the next caller here. Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Yes, where are you calling from, sir?
Yes, I'm calling from Ground Zero.
All right.
Northern Zone.
What is your contribution?
Yes, I very much appreciate the topic of discussion this evening.
Thank you.
And I have one worry. And my first worry is that our brother, the Federalist, I think he is trying to set the confusion on people on the ground. He's not helping us much. He is fixed for La Republic du Cameroon. That is my own observation. Because he cannot be asking which date we have ever had independence. We have a map which was brought to us in this country, Cameroon, by the Secretary General of the UN. And he's asking us of our independence. What is the meaning of that map to him? We have our boundaries defined. A state is defined by the boundaries, the population, and the government. And we have those three elements if he knows the meaning of a state.
That is very eloquently
This thing constitute what he is asking about. We had a government, we had a territory, we had a people. What is he asking of? United Nations voted for our independence. 21st of April 1961. The resolution 1608 he is asking about. Has he ever gone to Article 5? Was Article 5 respected? Now you go to talk about the federal constitution. Was it a valid document? It was never a valid document in the history of Southern Cameroons, because that was the work of La Republique de Cameroon alone. Please, sir, I feel that you are misleading the majority of the people on the ground. If you are for La Republique, stand for La Republique, and don't, Pastor Clay, don't bring this out people who come and set the confusion. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
All right.
Our brother adjusts himself. If he is for us, let him be for us. Let him not set the confusion and saying things and papers that have no value to us on the ground.
All right. Thank you. Let's get to the next caller.
Much,
all right. Thank you. All right. Hello.
Hello, Comrade Chris. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Ngokotunja County.
Wonderful. What is going on in Ngokotunja today?
Well, nothing bad.
All right. What is on your mind?
Nothing bad. Yeah. I want to address the Federalist who is on your show. Now, this question goes to him. If in a situation where there is no federalism between the Republic of Cameroon and Amazonia, we have just two options: either to have the independence or go back to the one Cameroon. Which one does he prefer?
All right. Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Hello.
This is Jeff from Berlin.
Jeff from Berlin?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. What is your contribution?
Yeah, I would appreciate you for your program of being dynamic. You have opened up your program to bring in some people like the Federalists to come and receive revelations and expose the ignorance of the subject matter. I would like to appreciate my brother, on the other hand, who has taken time to give lectures, and I hope the gentleman has taken notes to take it to account. As a matter of fact, my brother has summarized this issue in a very simple way. It's simple. Who are Ambazonians? Ambazonians are a minority in French or in Cameroon, and they have a right to exist, and the minorities have a right to secession on international law. And this right of existence can never be protected under the kangaroo system like that Cameroon or under a federal structure. This war has been going on for the past almost 80 years today. What can the gentleman tell us? To what extent or in what way can the present context, what they are preaching, federation, in what way can they protect the rights of the minority or Ambazonians? The answer is no, it cannot happen. And secondly, few years ago, they came up with what they call the special status. The content, one would have even expected the so-called special status even to protect the rights of these minorities. But it's a sham of itself. It has nothing. The content has nothing.
But you see, hold on there, comrade. You make a very vital point there, and I think that is a point that Comrade Dennis was making, that under no circumstances there is no structure that can give us equity in the government in one and indivisible Cameroon. Comrade,
I think Comrade Derry has been able to articulate this problem today very well. I appreciate him so much. And yes, this French Cameroon has proven time well number that there is no way they can give these people the true meaning of federation. And one would have even just a simple truth that they held a few years ago a so-called Grand National Dialogue. One would have even expected them to just give us this so-called federal structure, even by protecting the right of the minority. What's happened today? Today we are still being governed by the governors of Norwest, the governors in Buya, the state francophones.
Yeah.
What do you expect to do? I mean, what is it talking about? It cannot work, and it will never work, bro. That's the truth.
All right.
That's the truth.
Thank you.
Again, the issue of minorities, sir. We are 20% of that country. How do you expect 20% to fight 80%? When you go to the National Assembly, we're the minority. And in National Assembly, laws have been passed democratically voted. And you don't expect us, it will not work, sir. It will not work.
It will not work, sir. Thank you for the call. Let's give the chance to other callers, please. Thank you for the call. Deeply appreciate it. All right. Hello.
Hello, Chris. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the dens.
From the dens. So what do you mean by that?
No, I am in their own city.
Oh, okay, in the colonial territory.
Yes.
Okay.
I wish to address my brother with the BS. That is so ugly. On all the crises, the killing, and everything we're passing through, can still stand to preach. If he has taken bribe, he should think of starting following the money.
No, I don't think it is right for us to think that everybody has a contrary opinion because he's taking bribe. I just think that some people just don't understand the what we.
I mean, he has that
for.
mentality.
So
You have
let's
that
avoid
Francophone mentality.
labeling people, giving people certain label just because they differ with us. That's why we're having a conversation here and bringing people like him on. All right, go on.
See something. I don't think with all the crises that we are passing through, he should come and start preaching federalism issues, which we know doesn't make sense. he first of all tell us how, through his own mind and federal issues, they will stop the crisis first. Then we'll think they are doing something. If they can stop the crisis, we'll be very much ready to listen to them. But they have not stopped the killings down there. They have not stopped the crisis. Things are still going worse and worse. And they are preaching about federal state. Who do they want to buy in their camp? Because people like the Atangajis and the rest are not willing to cooperate. And so how will they bring him into their camp? He just made mention that the elites are the one blocking. How will he do to overcross those elites and for his voice to be heard?
Right.
It's really an embarrassing story.
All right, thank you. All of you are making the point. Thank you for the call. Let's get to other callers here. Hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Where are you calling from?
Hello.
Hello, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Bamenda.
Okay. What is your contribution, sir?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
I can tell that Ground Zero is awake today.
For always bringing people of every
shade of opinion.
Yes. I want to thank you for bringing people from all walks of life on our show so that they can express their minds. I would like to remind our brother that, you see, before the fight for independence was even coming, Southern Cameroons had separated from Nigeria and formed a government from 1954 that was working very successfully, and Britain was supporting it very seriously. So for him to be asking us when we ever became independent, I think it is absurd. I think it's absurd. So I expected that he should rather be asking Britain why they deprived us of our independence, which we had long before even the La République. Yeah, he should be fighting, asking Britain, why did you deprive us of our independence, voted by the United Nations, and we already had it and we're practicing it. So to tell us that we had never become independent, I think it's absurd. Secondly, on the point of the documents that are parading the air and so on, I think it is even a plus to us, because if La Republic can bring up a document from Britain, it is only going to tell them that they don't know what is meant by a treaty of union and a document handing over power. I think so. I think they are just being stupid. So I think it is even a plus to us.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, sir. Very much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Have a nice time.
You too. All right. Comrade Kennedy, I believe you hear our people from Ground Zero. These are not Chris Ano supporters or surrogates. They are Ambazonians, Southern Cameroonians, for whom you think you are fighting for. When 100% of them disagree with you, don't you think that it is time you consider joining the independent movement? Let us ask for a referendum or bring Cameroon to the negotiation table. Let's discuss about going back to 1961, when the UN, as we quoted, voted for our independence, and we run our own government.
Yes, I mean, yes, when I hear everyone from Ground Zero, I hear them completely, and I feel them. You know, it's just that there's a lot of half-truth out there that they believe. And it's, again, I've come to the point where it becomes difficult for me to think that I have to prove